So, we're currently going through our series called Lifegoals. And in our series, we have redefined success. And true success for us means becoming all that God wants you to be and doing all that He wants you to do. And hearing Him say, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your Master." So, how many of us want to have a few enemies? A few? Many? Nobody?
No.
As much as possible, no enemies, right? Or how many of us wants to have pretty messed up relationship? Nobody, right? Or how many of us want to have disagreements with each other? The most logical answer would be no, right? No. So which means our topic for tonight, which is succeed in family relationship, is very important. Why? Because success in family relationship doesn't have a middle ground. It isn't subjective. And it depends upon the person. You can't say, you know what, I think I'm okay with just a few enemies. I'm fine with that. You can't say for the other guy, you know what, maybe 2 or 3 is okay for me. It's not subjective. Nobody can say that. Or like, you know what, if I just argue with my mom once a month, I'm okay with it. It's really a clear-cut line. And unlike the other topics you have discussed, like finances, one can say, you know what, if I reach this certain amount, I'm okay. For the other guy, you know what, I think I could go higher, and that's okay for me. So, this is really important. And come to think of it, you were made for relationships and placed in relationships. Even before you can say the first word that you have as a child, you were placed in a relationship. Right? Even before you can go and write something, you were nurtured by a relationship. And even before you were born, you were in the relationships of your parents. Which relationships take a key role in our life, such that before anything else, before you can succeed in anything at what you wanted, relationship was that important. So, I would like to open your Bibles to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Now, for some of you very familiar with this verse, you say, I know this one. It talks about a central theme. It talks about, Paul writes about the theology of love. And if you're like me, okay, chapter 50, I know that Paul talks about love. However, if you get to study it, this is just part of a series of writings for Paul. Some of us would think, this is an encouragement for me. But actually, this is a rebuke. Chapter 13 started in chapter 12, where Paul rebukes the Corinthian church for their selfishness in desiring spiritual gifts. The Corinthian church was plagued with quarrels from members who believed their spiritual giftedness makes them superior from the others. So Paul tells that in chapter 12 and then corrects their attitude in chapter 13. Paul is saying, love, not spiritual gifts, is what you should go after. And this has been a cause of many problems in our relationships, right? In our families, when we think our ideas are better because we earn better. You know what, my idea is so important. The problem, like the Corinthian church, is not the lack of our theology. Not that we don't go to Sunday services every Sunday, but because we want things done our way. So let's proceed to that chapter. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 1 to 3. I will read it for you. If I could speak all the languages of earth and of angels, but didn't love others, I would only be a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I had the gift of prophecy, and if I understood all of God's secret plans and possessed all knowledge, And if I had such faith, I could move mountains but didn't love others, I would be nothing. If I gave everything I have to the poor and even sacrificed my body, I could boast about it. But if I didn't love others, I would have gained nothing. Paul is saying everything means nothing if not done in love. Paul is putting that importance of love. Paul is even saying, you know what? Even if you could speak the languages of this world, but didn't love others, it would just be noise. And even if you could give all of your possessions to the poor, if you didn't do it out of love, it means nothing. And Paul went further, even if you could sacrifice your life, just like Jesus did, if it's not done in love, it is nothing. It means nothing and it gains nothing. Paul puts love as of highest importance. For love gives importance. Isn't it true for most of us? The reason why we have so many conflicts in the family is because we see something more important than love. We see one thing more important than showing love. So if love is so important, then our love should give importance. A few months ago, I was able to find the rarest, most valuable thing on earth. Next to my relationship with Jesus, disclaimer. So, I got married. I got married to the best thing, or the rarest, most valuable thing on earth. So, how my wife shows her love for me and putting me more important than her is that whenever there are decisions in the family, if maybe it was her family or my family, she would always say, "Ma, we'll have to talk with John. Okay, I'll go talk to John about it." Not because my wife is not capable of making those decisions. She is. But she would defer to my decisions because her love for me shows that my decisions are more important. And the way I respond is like, not like, of course, my husband is so important. No, the way I respond to her is that I respond to her with showing her importance. I would then ask her, what do you think of my decision? If I go in this way, is it okay? I would always defer to her as well. Even in this message, I would always ask her, it's not that I don't know scripture, but I would always consider her thoughts more important to me. Because loving people respond by giving importance. So if you're that loving person, the best and the ultimate thing you can do to another person is to give them that importance. And if you're that loving person, the best you can respond is not to take it all in, but to also respond by giving that person such importance. Her thoughts, her opinions is an important thing to you as you move. So ask yourself, when was the last time you showed someone their importance? Or when was the last time you responded with importance? So again, for love is of highest importance, and for love gives importance. Let's move on with the rest of the text. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, 4-6, can you help me read? Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wrong. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. So in this chapter, in this succeeding text, after Paul provides the importance of love, Paul then begins to provide illustrations of love. Words like patient, words like kindness, words like it is not jealous or boastful, or never gives up, or never loses faith. Paul here is describing words of action. Because love is an action, not an abstraction. Because love is shown by actions. This is very, very important as this day and age, because a lot of the younger people would say, I saw a very young pretty lady, I'm in love. It's just your heart beating faster. There is now that premium when you feel something different, right? But in this text, Paul is emphasizing it's not based on how you feel, but it is based on your actions and how you demonstrate it. By your patience, by your kindness, by how you always stick with that person. Paul wants us to know how love looks like when we see it. Paul is showing us a picture. This is what love looks like. And you would say, I know that. That's patience. That's a person who's patient. You can picture it at an action. You cannot say that person is patient with just a painting of a person just standing there. Right? That is always an action done towards another person. So I think some of you are very familiar, maybe you come across this catchphrase. What's the right thing to do? Are you all familiar with that? Come across one point or another, what's the right thing to do? It's a common thing, right? Oh, you know what? I'm in this mess, what's the right thing to do? But as I grew, especially in a relationship with my wife, I get to think that sometimes the right things aren't the best things. And sometimes the right things are even the most loving thing to do. So during our dating stage, when we go through difficulties, I get to readjust this phrase to suit that. I would say, what's the love thing to do? Right? Or better yet, to put it in better perspective, what would love cause me to do? See, if you're in an argument and you ask yourself, what would love cause me to do? It's never gonna say, you know what, retaliate, shout back. It's total polar opposite. Right? During our stages when my wife would get sick and she lives like a 30-minute, supposedly a 30-minute drive, but now with traffic it's an hour drive. She got sick and she's just staying here by herself. By then, we're still dating. I would ask myself, okay, what would love cause me to do in this situation? She's all by herself, she can't cook because she's not feeling well. So I would prepare for her lunch. I would tell my boss I would take longer this time and drive to her place and drive back. And she said that all her meds and everything else, because that is what love would cause me to do. Whenever we have arguments, especially in the middle of work, it's very difficult to focus, right? You're in the middle of work and there's an argument. There was one time, this really happened, it was, I think, almost lunchtime, and we had an argument. So I wasn't able to focus. So I asked myself, what would love cause me to do in this situation? Then, I got to my phone and called her and asked sorry. I'm sorry, we had a disagreement, and that made everything well. So when you have a good relationship, it drives productivity way, way up, right? See, ask yourself, in your difficulties, in your situations, what would love cause you to do? It would never tell you to, you know what, retaliate. You know what, don't talk anymore, just leave it as it is. See, love would always cause you what love would always lead you to do. So as we proceed, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 7, let's all read. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes in all things, endures all things. Again, what does love bear again?
All things.
Some things. What does love bear again?
All things.
Most things.
All things.
Love bears all things. Paul directs us to the all things of love. Because you might be there sitting and asking yourself, you know what, I can do with a little bit more patience. I mean, you could do a little bit more patience. Right? You could bump your friend, you know what, you could also do a bit more kindness. It's never wrong to be a bit more kind. And then you may be saying, you know what, I could be a less arrogant. That's okay. But this is not some things. These are all things. You can't say, you know what, I just want a few patience. Paul is telling that these are the all things that we need to do. And you might be there wondering, does Paul really mean all things? And the answer is, yes. Paul is saying all things. You might be there, Paul, are you really sure? Isn't there a disclaimer? Isn't there a restriction? You want all things if, all things except? And Paul is saying, no. All things is all things. And you're there wondering, Paul, that's impossible. It's so impossible to bear all things. It's impossible to endure all things. Right? And I would say, yes, it is impossible. And you're there wondering, so what's the point? What's the point of the importance? What's the point of this illustration? If then it is impossible. It is. On your own capacity, it is. On your own, it is. And outside of a loving relationship with God, the all things won't exist. This is where the supernatural nature of love kicks in, when we are called to go further. When we are to continuously love a family member who has hurt us. Before we can love people in all things, we must first experience the love of God in all things. All our limitations, all our weaknesses, and in all our sins. God demonstrated that love for you on the cross. When Jesus showed you how important you are by coming down from heaven, and He didn't only feel that He loves you. Jesus illustrated His love for you. And then, by taking your punishment, He showed you how the impossible can be possible for Him. So the next time you say the words, I love you, know its importance. Know that it gives importance. Know that it is illustrated by actions. And know that it is impossible on your own. But Jesus Christ made it possible for you.